Well, I'm delighted to welcome Baroness Delyth Morgan here to Corner House. And Baroness, you're from Breast Cancer Campaign, Chief Executive thereof, and you've set up a tissue bank, breast tissue bank. Tell me what that's all about.
Well, there's so much to say about it. What happened was in 2006, the Breast Cancer Campaign got together all the experts in the UK who really focus on breast cancer and said, what are the things that are really holding back breast cancer research? You know, we want to find a cure for breast cancer. What do we need to do to make the environment in the UK the best place for breast cancer research? And they came back and said, well, actually, one of the really big problems is we don't have access to the right kind of breast tissue, breast cancer tissue, to do the research that we want to do. We understand so much more about all the different types of breast cancer, so we need to have access to the right kind of tissue. And so what we did at the charity was to set up a tissue bank with 4 centres. So we've got Dundee, Leeds, Barts in London and Nottingham. We've got all those hospitals to agree to work together to create a tissue bank. And what that means, in very simple terms, is that when a woman in one of those places is sadly diagnosed with breast cancer, she will have a conversation with a specialist breast nurse to say, you know, can we use your tissue for breast cancer research? And of course, most women in that in that situation are really happy to have the tissue that is not used for diagnosis to be saved and, in many cases frozen for research.
So let me just sort of get this into my head. I mean, imagine that I were one of those people. I've been sort of given the shock that I've got breast cancer. I know I'm going to have a lumpectomy. And when that is done, am I going to lose more breast tissue because it's going to go to research, or is it still going to be the same sort of amount that's going to be cut out? That's
a really good question. Actually, what it is it's the tissue that would be wasted or kind of destroyed. So there wouldn't be any more tissue taken. It's just what would get destroyed or unused can then be saved and used for research. So in fact, a lot of women are a bit surprised that it's not automatically used for research anyway. So it is making use of something that would otherwise be wasted.
I mean, it is obvious, and yet it's, of course, we didn't think about it, well, one didn't think about it. So, so just to get this completely right, it's actually the breast cancer bit, it's not the bit surrounding it that you want to work on.
Well, that's an interesting question in itself, actually, because it is the breast cancer that the scientists want to look at, because what they're wanting to look at is what are the cells that make the cancer, what are they doing, why are they growing, what's their genetic profile, why are there so many different kinds, and how can we find something that we can target with a drug or a chemical or a special characteristic that could be used to find a new way of diagnosis. So that's important. But actually, the bits around the outside of the cancer are important too, because it's important to know where does the cancer stop and the normal tissue begin. So there is an awful lot of research that needs to be done.
It's a fascinating. Now, you're a scientist by profession, so you understand all this much more than people like me. So when they take the tissue away that is infected, well, infection is probably the wrong word, but that is conditioned with the cancer, how is it going to be used by the scientists from there on in?
Well, what they do is they most often would freeze the tissue or put it into what they call paraffin blocks and then slice it up very thinly so it can be looked at under a microscope. Or they'll take some cells out of the sample and grow those into what they call a cell culture. And then they can use that culture to do experiments, to put chemicals into it and see how they react. And those processes create the material that scientists need to study breast cancer in lots and lots of different ways. And the other thing that the tissue bank does, which is about speeding up science, is it makes available through all the kind of computer information, informatics that go with the tissue, it makes all the data about that kind of breast cancer, all the research that's already been done, it makes that available. So when the scientists search looking for a particular kind of cell type, they'll find the scientific papers that have already been published will pop up. So, so it speeds up that that way of looking at the science in a really important way.
Right, I can see what a wonderful way that everybody can sort of help with each other. Presumably the ultimate aim is obviously to find a chemical that can reverse it.
Well, the ultimate aim is to find a cure for breast cancer.
Yes.
Now, fortunately, some women, when they're diagnosed with breast cancer, will have treatment that will mean that their breast cancer has gone away and it won't ever come back, and that's fantastic. But we know that 12,000 women every year do go on and die from breast cancer, so the treatments that we have are not good enough for everyone. So the aim is to find a cure. Absolutely.
And of course, by having all of this tissue available, which at the moment is just in four centres, so if you're not near one of those centres, then your breast tissue isn't going to be used. No, at this time.
Okay. At this time. In the future, we'd like to, in fact, we have got some more collaborating centres coming on, but it's a big commitment for the hospital to have this, tissue bank part of their daily operation, because, you've got to have ways of storage, you've got to have all the informatics, you've got to have the people to do the consenting, and then you've got to have the tissue bank is about storage, but it's actually about dissemination as well. So you've got to be able to get the tissue out to the scientists to do the research. So it's something that we're developing.
Yes, it's not a small operation, is it?
No.
No. Thank you very much indeed. It's fascinating to hear all about it. So thank you.
Thank you.